I have only just a minute, only 60 seconds in it. It's forced upon me. I can't refuse it. I didn't seek it. I didn't choose it, but it's up to me to use it. I must suffer if I lose it, give account if I abuse it. Oh, it's just a tiny little minute, but our eternities are wrapped up in it. I want to welcome you to the Jolly Good News Report. And I am Dr. Willie Jolley, and I want to say welcome. Thank you for joining me today on this beautiful fall morning. And I'm grateful for this opportunity to speak to you and to encourage you and to inspire you and help you, I hope, to grow and go to the next level. And I'm grateful. I want you to do me a favor as we get started. I want you to start a watch party. Do me a favor, start a watch party, because we know there's some people somewhere who need to hear this message, who need to be encouraged. And this message is specifically designed to encourage, uplift, inspire, and empower people to grow and go to the next level. So start a watch party and then like it and share it. Like it and share it with not only people you know, people you don't even know. Let them know as well. And so I'm grateful for that. For those who don't know, I'm the host of the Willie Jolley Wealthy Way Show on Sirius XM Radio. And we are grateful. You want to hear my show, by the way, today. This week, I've got Steve Case, the founder of AOL and the author of the book, The Third Wave. He's a billionaire, and he's doing a program to help create more billionaires. And I want to help more billionaires come to America and come to the world. So join me on my Sirius XM show. It will air today at 4 o'clock Eastern Time on channel 141. And it will re-air on Tuesday at 6 p.m. and Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, channel 141. You will love this interview. Now, for those who don't have XM, no worry, because next week, the interview will be repurposed and rebroadcast on my podcast, the Willie Jolley Wealthy Ways podcast. Every week we bring in the best and the brightest, whether it's a General Colin Powell or John Maxwell or T.D. Jakes or Gladys Knight or Sheila Johnson, or whether it's a Wally Famous Amos or Brian Tracy or Les Brown. Whoever I interview, Damon John, they go from there to my podcast. So you can get the podcast absolutely free all over the world. So the Willie Jolley Wealthy Way podcast on the iHeartRadio, C-Suite Radio, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And then make sure that you listen to me every morning, Monday through Friday, on the Get Up Mornings with Erica Campbell radio show on the Praise Network, on Radio 1 on the Praise Network at 8:20 Eastern Time, 7:20 Central Time for my Wake Up and Win with Dr. Willie Jolley segment. But if you're not in the area where that airs, don't worry. Just go to winwithwillie.com, winwithwillie.com, sign up for the newsletter, and I will send you a video version of that audio message every day, Monday through Friday, free. That's my gift to you. And we've got so many people around the world who are signing up, tuning in, and then sharing it with others. And we're so grateful because we want to empower, inspire, encourage, uplift, and help you win more. So please do that. Now, I'm excited about this week's message on the Jolly Good News Report. For those who don't know, might be joining for the first time, I started this Jolly Good News Report in March 2020, where the world changed. One day, it was one day. Everything was going fine. We knew there was a pandemic, but on one day, the NBA shut down and other businesses shut down. And my speaking business, I have a calendar over here in my office that had speaking engagements all over the world. They were all signed up, people, and they started calling and canceling that day. Everything changed that day. The world changed. We went into a shutdown and people got depressed. They got filled with anxiety. And I said, you know what? I'm good with that. I'm okay with that because I know how to turn a setback into a comeback. I know how to get through tough times. I've been through tough times before. And I know this is not the last tough time I'll probably see. If I live long enough, I'll see more. So thank God for this one. I thank God, and I'm praying that I'll live longer and longer and longer and see many more. Every decade, just about, there's a crisis. And so I've been through a number of decades with crises, and I said, I've learned from each one. But I need to encourage those who need some encouragement, who need some good news. In a time of bad news and so much sad news and depressing news, they need some good news. And so I decided to start this Jolly Good News Report. Jollygoodnews.org is my faith-based site. I encourage you to go. Jollygoodnews.org and just look at some of the things we're doing and some of the things we're pursuing, and how to help people in prison, how to help young kids who are in juvenile justice or in schools, how to help people who are depressed, how to just encourage people in massively different ways in multitudes of modalities all over the world. So I started this Jolly Good News Report. And I'm so grateful for all of you who have been sharing it with your friends and telling people you need to tune in every Saturday morning, 9 o'clock Central, 10 o'clock Eastern, and 6 a.m. Pacific. Just tune in. But if you say, well, I'm asleep or I can't get up there, you can watch it afterwards on YouTube and just tie into us and go to the Jolly Good News Facebook page. We want to help as many people as we can to win. So we started doing it. And every week I made a point, no bad news, nothing but good news. Even in the midst of bad news, all swirling around us, I choose to find some good news, because I know wherever there's a burden, there's a blessing. So you just got to look for it, that there is a blessing in this challenging time. So let me give you the good news that I've been given every week since the coronavirus crisis began. We hear on television how many people got the infection, and that's bad. And then they tell you how many people died, and that's bad. You don't hear those numbers from me. The only number you hear from me regarding coronavirus is the statistic of the week, which is how many people recovered, how many people got over it, how many people won, how many people rose above it because they're home with their families. Oh, I'm praying for those who lost loved ones. I've lost loved ones. I've spoken at churches. I've spoken at funerals for people who succumbed, who were taken, but there are some people who went home. And that's what I want to celebrate, so that you'll know there is some good news that we can find in the midst of all of this challenging news. Here's a good news statistic of the week regarding coronavirus. 36 million. 36 million people globally are at home with their families. Wow. So we're grateful for those people who have recovered. I saw a man on television the other day who has been in the hospital for 6 months. 6 months, was on a ventilator for 30 days. They didn't know if he was going to make it or not, but he has survived and he's home with his family. Wow. Good news. So I want to give you some more good news. You know, we were in the midst of a challenging week in many circles because this has been an election week, and we've been seeing a lot of turmoil, and a lot of people are happy and a lot of people are sad. I'm not going to take a side on whether you should be happy or sad. That's your business. But I do want to share some good news that we got from the election. What kind of good news that everybody can celebrate? There's some good news that came out of the election. The first one was a joint ad on television with the two people who were running for governor in Utah, Chris Peterson and Spencer Cox. They did a joint television commercial to focus on the fact that we should be civil. And I believe that's important, that everybody understand that we're all Americans, no matter which way you voted. I'm praying for America. I am praying for you. If you voted the same way I voted, which I'm not going to disclose, or you voted a different way, I'm still praying for you, because we might have come over here in different boats. The only ones who were here from the beginning were the Native Americans. Everybody else came over here in a different boat somehow, some way, or came across a border. Whatever way, that we all may have come here in different boats, but we're in the same boat now. And in a worldwide global economy, we got to row together. And so I'm encouraging you to get a mindset where We are not adversaries. We are Americans. We don't have to always agree, but we can agree to disagree without being disagreeable. We can agree to disagree without being disagreeable. And we can agree to pray for each other. That's what I'm doing for people of every stripe. So I love the fact that these two gentlemen came together and did a television ad to enjoy the process, the American process. So that was a great good news story. Here's some of the other good news that came out of this election. This election saw the highest voter turnout in over a century. More than 160 million Americans voted. They just voted. Wow, that's amazing. That's the highest voter turnout percentage-wise of almost 67% of the people in America voted. Eligible voters voted. Wow, that's the highest percentage since the early 1900s. Wow. There are a huge number of young people who registered and cast their vote. More than 15 million who turned 18 since the last presidential election were registered to vote, and they voted in droves in Idaho and Minnesota and Georgia and Vermont. And the youth voters registered exceeded 2016's number by over a third. That's great news that we got our young people becoming part of the electoral process, the democratic process. That's great. We want to say that the Center for Information Research and Civic Learning has applauded that and has said this is so outstanding. Now, for those who were too young to vote, here's another piece of good news about this election. Many of those young people signed up as poll workers, because many of the older people who typically are poll workers were afraid of the virus. They had a shortage of people who were able to work the polls because of the virus. So these young people stepped up. Bravo! That's good news. Whoa, that is great. And then the next piece of good news is that those Americans, so I talked about the Native Americans, who were the ones who were here when everybody else got here. They made history in this election with 6 candidates winning seats in the 117th Congress. Now that's good news. 3 women and 3 men. They voted in 3 Republicans, 3 Democrats, 2 from Oklahoma, 2 from New Mexico, 1 from Kansas, and 1 from Hawaii. Including 2 Cherokee, 2 Chickasaw, 1 Ho-Chunk, and 1 Laguna and Jemez Pueblo, and 1 Native Hawaiian. That's good news. That's good news. And then New Mexico became the first woman to elect all women of color to their House delegation. That's good news, that there's diversity, because we need to be diverse. As I said, we all came home in different boats, but we're in the same boat now. So we have to learn to love people who look different, who dress different, who think different, who vote different, who are just different, and learn to respect them. We don't have to always agree with them. But I looked in my Bible one day, and Jesus taught a lesson about a good Samaritan. A lawyer came to him and said, well, what do I need to get into heaven? He said, well, you need to love God and love your neighbor. And the lawyer, being erudite and scholarly, said, well, who's my neighbor? And Jesus said, well, let me tell you a story, and you figure it out. He said, a man was going along the road, and he was robbed and beaten and left in a ditch. A priest came by, looked at him, thought he was drunk. A rabbi came by and thought he might have been inebriated. But a Samaritan, who was the lowest of the low, who was an outcast, according to their culture, came and looked at the man and had compassion on him and took him and put him on his animal after taking medication and putting on his wounds, took him to the local inn, said to the innkeeper, I need to help this man. He said, is he a family member? No. Is he a friend? No. I just need to help this man. This man has been hurt. We got to help this guy. And they took care of him that night. And then the Samaritan said, I have to go on, but here's all the money I have. Take care of him as long as you can. And anything that is over what I have, I'll pay you when I come back. but he's not a family member. No, not a friend. No, he's my neighbor. And then Jesus said to the lawyer, well, who is the neighbor? And the lawyer said, yeah, I understand now. The one you take care of, whether they are like you or different. I don't have to agree with them. He didn't ask what their party affiliation was. Didn't ask whether he was straight or gay. Didn't ask whether he was married or single. Didn't ask whether he was anything else. Just said, that's my neighbor. We need to look at that scripture, that there was no delineation of anybody. It was the neighbor. So we've got to love everybody and pray for everybody. So this House delegation of all women of color in New Mexico, that's good news. And then Cori Bush, a nurse and a single mom from Springfield, Missouri, became the first Black woman elected to Congress from the state of Missouri. She made news. Today, I want to talk about, as we get in the few minutes that we have left, and I try and keep this to a time that you can absorb it and then go about with your day, just something to give you a word of encouragement, that we've got to deal with the fact that we're in the midst of change. We're seeing a sea change in so many ways. The world will never be the same after this pandemic is over than it was before. We are doing television and messaging and meetings and communication virtually. I recently did a speech, and I'm doing speeches every day just about. I'm doing just about every day. I just did the Society of Human Resource Managers. This week I've done the California Nevada Credit Union League. I've done speeches and interviews and radio and television interviews all over the globe, right from here, standing right here. And I recently did one in Australia, a speech, myself and my good buddy Les Brown. He opened, I closed a speech in Australia, Sydney, Australia. And I did it from right here. Now, beforehand, my visits to Australia were always the same. I'd leave my home at 9 o'clock in the morning, go to Dulles International Airport in Virginia. And DC has 3 airports, but Dulles is the one when you're going to take an international flight as far away as Australia. And we took my flight from Dulles. Leave here at 9 o'clock, got there at 10 o'clock. I had a 12 o'clock flight, and then I fly to Los Angeles, and then I have a 3-hour layover before I take the 8 o'clock flight, my time. Well, really it's the 5 o'clock flight out of LA, but my time is 8 o'clock. So I've been up since early in the morning. I left my home at 9, and then it's 8 o'clock at night. I'm catching another flight. So that's just from leaving home, that's 11 hours, 9 hours. And then, 11 hours. And then I got a 30-hour flight, well, almost 30-hour flight to Australia. So it's a long time from my house to my hotel to give a speech. Well, this time, let me tell you how it worked. Since there's 16 hours in front of us, what I did was I took a nap in the afternoon. I came down to my office at about 12:30 a.m. in the morning. I spoke from 1 a.m. till 2:30, finished my speech, took off my tie, took off my suit, went upstairs, had a glass of cranberry juice and a pretzel, and I went to bed. And it was wonderful. But the world will never be the same. We got to realize that change is happening. And so we want to talk about change, because you got to make a choice. Stuff is going to change. The world is changing. Now you have to choose. Maya Angelou said it like this: there's something in your life you don't like, change it. But if you cannot change it, change your attitude. And so I want to read a little piece to you from my book, An Attitude of Excellence, about change. What are your thoughts about change? Do you see it as an enemy, something to be resisted at all costs, or do you welcome it? How do you handle change? Do you simply endure it, or do you learn from them? Do you grow from them? Do you become better because of the changes. Imagine change as a supersonic freight train speeding down the track toward us. The train is coming more rapidly every day in one form or another. Due to technology, change is coming more rapidly every day. For example, the new top-of-the-line computer that I bought, or smartphone that I bought, top-of-the-line smartphone I bought just a year ago is now said to be obsolete. But we laugh about the fact that those things change. But as that supersonic train comes your way, you got three choices. Choice number one, option number one, is to stand in front of that train and say, I'm not moving. Not a good choice. It will run you over. Resist change, it will run you over. Choice number two is look at it go by and say, oh, isn't that a pretty train? No, that's ignore change. It will pass you by. The choice number three is to get on board and ride it and grow from it. And not just go through it, but grow through it and get better because of it and adapt and adopt it. That's when you start to grow. Jack Welch, a former CEO of General Electric, said, only those who drive change maximize their potential. So you don't just want to ride it, you want to drive it. I'm encouraging you to see change as part of this process. We must change. I like to do this little exercise. I want everybody, if you would, to do me a favor and cross your arms. Cross your arms, cross your arm. Everybody, right now, cross your arm right now where you are. Now, look at what arm is on top. Okay? Now reverse the arms. Kind of hard to do, isn't it? Yep, it's hard. Why is that? Because you've been crossing your arms since before you were born. Babies start crossing their arms in their mother's womb, and once they establish a pattern, they never change again. That's how we are about life. We are creatures of habit. We tend to do what we've always done because that's the way we've always done it. But if you keep doing what you've been doing, you're going to keep getting what you've been getting. You got to maybe change. And it's uncomfortable to change because you've been doing it so long. Statistics show if you go to a restaurant the second time, you're probably going to get the same meal you got the first time. Yep. Statistics show when the pandemic's not happening and you go to church or synagogue or mosque to worship, you're probably going to sit in the same area or stand in the same area or be in the same area as you were last week. If you put on a pair of pants, you probably put the same leg in first. Yeah. We are creatures of habit. We tend to do what we've always done because that's the way we've always done it. But my mama told me something one time I've never forgotten. She said, Willie, if you keep doing what you've been doing, you're going to keep getting what you've been getting. And after I got enough spankings, because I kept doing the wrong thing, after I got enough spankings, I figured it out. It was time to change. And over the years, I've learned to not just adapt and adopt change, but embrace it and really go with it and grow with it and to drive it. So that's why I've started this Jolly Good News. That's why we started these 1-minute videos we send out every day during these tough times, just to encourage people. And people are just being so excited about them. We're getting messages from them. And so I'm excited about the impact this is having. People ask, why do you do it, Willie? Because God gave me a vision to do it. He said, people will bless you because you just do what I say do. People will watch it. They'll support it. They'll share it. They'll be encouraged by it, and they will encourage you with it, and they will let you know by their resources, their love, their support, that they are all in. So that is why we do it, to try and be a blessing to others. And if we benefit, that's neither here nor there. It's that we bless somebody else. Because as you give, so shall it be given unto you. Blessed, abundant, shaken down, overflowing. So I'm very excited that I'm able to share this message with you today, that it's about change. Change always brings some challenge. That's challenging. Change creates challenge, but it comes down to your choices. It comes down to your choices. So change, challenge, and choices. You must choose to see life from another perspective. You must choose to stay positive. You must choose to be excited about the future. It's a choice. Maya Angelou, love Maya Angelou's thinking. She said, if there's something in your life you don't like, change it. But if you cannot change it, change your attitude. Many people know. I'm featured in the book Chicken Soup for the Christian Soul. I'm on the front cover there with Joyce Meyer, Tony Campola, Naomi Rhodey, and Willie Jolley. I'm on it. I have a story in there about when I lost my mother, my brother, and my father-in-law in 2003, within 30 days. If I could change that right now, I would. I miss my brother every day. But I thank God. I had to change my thinking. I had to reframe the whole situation. I could be depressed and down in the dumps because I lost my mother, my only sibling, my brother, who was 18 months older than me. We were essentially very close, almost not quite twins, but very close. And then my father-in-law, who was my mentor. I could be depressed and discouraged and despondent. Oh, I could reframe it and rethink it and change what I do to respond to it. If there's something in your life you don't like, change it. I cannot change the fact that my mother, my brother, and my father-in-law died within 30 days. But if you cannot change it, change your attitude. I decided to change my attitude, and now I share with people all over the country when they lose a loved one. And around the world, I call them or I send them a note and say, I heard about your loss. I want to give you some thoughts. One, I want you to make a decision. Life is about decisions. It's not just about the problem, it's about decisions you make. And the decision I want you to make is, are you going to curse because the rose bush has thorns, or celebrate because the thorn bush has roses? That's your choice. You can curse because your loved one is gone, or celebrate because they came this way. That they were part of your life for some time. See, I think back to my brother when he was, I think 16 or 17, he had a 40 Econoline truck he had just gotten. And he was out one day driving, and he told me about it later, and he was new to riding on the highway, and he got in the wrong lane in front of a tractor trailer, and a man, hey, boo, 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 and he just missed an accident with a tractor trailer by just a little bit. Think if he had gotten killed that day, I would have missed another 32 years with him. So I can curse because he's gone, or celebrate that he came my way. Those other 32 years, we grew together. We had fun together. We traveled together. We laughed together. We talked together every day. So I decided I was going to celebrate that. So celebrate. When you lose a loved one or you know someone, share that with them. You can curse because the rose bush has thorns, or celebrate because the thorn bush has roses. Curse because they're gone, or celebrate because they came this way. I choose to celebrate. I choose to celebrate life. I choose to celebrate it every day. So change. It's going to happen. We're in the midst of change. Challenge. There's a challenge, but it comes down to your choices. Thank God. Be grateful for those things that you have, not what you don't have. Thank God for what you still have in store, and that your best is yet to come. Well, my time is up. I want to thank you for joining me today. Remember to do a couple things. One, share it, like it, tell everybody. And do me one more favor. If you go to jollygoodnews.org, make a donation. Whatever your heart puts on. Blessed jollygoodnews.org is my faith-based organization. So we can put those books in the prisons, those videos in the schools and the juvenile justice, that we can help people who are struggling to lift their lives and lift their thinking, that we can be a blessing to more people, and we can give God the glory for all of the above. Just go to jollygoodnews.org and become a partner, make a donation, and I appreciate that. Well, you have only just a minute. It's only 60 seconds in it. It's forced upon you. You can't refuse it. You didn't seek it. You didn't choose it. But it's up to you to use it. You must suffer if you lose it. Give account if you abuse it. Just a tiny little minute. But your eternities are wrapped up in it. This is Dr. Willie Jolley. God bless you. Thank you so much for your time. And remember, your best is yet to come. God bless you.